Welcome back. I am so glad to see you again this week. Thanks for joining me here right at Midweek Encouragement. I want to be an encouragement to you today. It's getting close to that time of year where we start doing yard work. And here in Oklahoma, we start early. Just the other day, I noticed my neighbor was out mowing. It had just snowed the week before, or just a few days earlier, and here she was out mowing her yard. But here in Oklahoma, our growing season is kind of broad, and we mow quite a bit. But I think one of the hardest things about mowing for me, or my most frustrating thing, is weed control. Yeah, sometimes I've said if it wasn't for weeds, I wouldn't have anything to cut. And I think the same can be said about our lives too. We need to control the weeds. And the most ugly weed that I have in my yard, it's called Dallas grass, and it's very hard to get rid of. If you know how, please let me know. I need help. I've been trying for years, and I would like to have a nice looking yard, but this stuff is just tough to get rid of. And I think that the hardest weed to get rid of in our lives is negativity. We can be some of the most negative and complaining people that you've ever met. I know people that would complain if their ice cream was cold. Yeah, you know them too. Hopefully it's not the same person. But there are some people that are just negative all the time. I think their blood type is B negative. And I don't think that's the way that God intended us to be. I think the antidote to is not a matter of seeing the glass half full or half empty. It's being thankful and grateful that you have a glass to have something in. The Oxford Dictionary defines the word thankful as pleased and relieved. But there's another word, and those are great feelings. Pleased and relieved, great feelings. But Oxford Dictionary also goes on and it defines the word grateful as showing appreciation for kindness. Showing appreciation or kindness. The difference between thankful and being grateful is that being thankful is a feeling, being grateful is an action. So are you thankful or grateful? It's a matter of showing an action. If you're sitting in a restaurant and the waitress or waiter comes along and fills your glass and you say, thank you, that's appreciation. That's being pleased and relieved that the glass is full. But at the end of the meal, when they bring you your ticket and you pay the bill and you leave the tip, that's when you have the opportunity to be grateful, to take some action on your thankfulness. I believe if the service is less than what we feel it should be, that we're going to leave a tip no matter what. Because our family believes just because that person didn't perform to my standard doesn't mean I need to lower my standard. So if you're able to be a blessing, be a blessing. We read in the Word of God in James chapter 1, starting in verse 16, it says, "Do not be deceived, my dear brothers. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like the shifting shadows." I think those words are so true because God said them in His Word. And the question comes down to this: do our words and actions towards others reflect His words and reflect Him? I was walking into the grocery store one day, and this was in a totally different town than where I live now, totally different church that I'm serving right now. But when I was walking in, I saw this person, I said hi to them. And a little farther closer into the store, somebody says, "You know them?" And questioned me like, "Who do you not know?" But you know them? I said, "Yeah, they go to my church." And their reaction was, "They go to church?" Wow. So here comes the question again. Is it obvious to others that you believe God is the provider of every good and perfect gift? The other day, and I don't remember what triggered this thought, but I started looking back at my childhood and I realized how blessed I am. And I look back and I realized, boy, my parents must have made a lot of sacrifices for me to have what I had and the blessings that I had growing up. I mean, what my folks drove, the cars that my dad had, you would say those were junk cars. But wait a minute, my dad's cars were scenic cars. Yes, you could look through all of the windows and the floorboard at the same time. Yeah, Flintstone cars. But it was great because those cars provided my dad an opportunity to do something that he loved. He loved to tinker on things. But He wasn't just tinkering, because my parents, in one of the awesome things about my parents, they didn't teach us how to do step 1, step 2, step 3. They taught us how to dive in and try. No matter what the circumstance, they taught us to dive in and try. So what if you were to do a genealogy on something or someone good that you have in your life? A genealogy of that person or that thing would be you working backwards until you found God as the source of that good thing. God is the source of our good, and it comes with many benefits. And when we recognize the source, we become more grateful, and we start to see we're not spinning up goods. The good things are already in our lives, but we become less anxious about loss. We become better caretakers. We become more generous in giving, and we start removing the weeds of negativity and pride from our lives. I think we can be more grateful for the little things that we've often overlooked. I'm grateful today that when I put my shoes on and I tied them up, the shoelaces didn't break. But I'm also thankful that I can tie my shoes. I can tie my shoes because when I was about 4 or 5 years old, my mother taught me to tie my shoes. She said, make a bunny loop, loop it around, make another bunny loop, tuck it through the hole, and pull them together. I had to go over that and over that and over that and over that. But I had the promise that as soon as I figured out how to tie my shoes, I'd get to go out and play on the swing. And I couldn't wait to go out and play on the green swing. I was probably there for no more than 5 minutes, but I knew I was going to get to do that. But you know what? The swing is nothing compared to today, because I know how to tie my shoes now due to what my mother taught me way back then. I go around and I see little kids with their shoes untied, and I tie their shoes. It is a lot of fun for me. It's a blessing for me to say, hey, come here, let me tie your shoes. And I have to get the knots out of their shoelaces, and their shoes are dirty or whatever, but I get to tie their shoes. And I get to show them, here's how you make a bunny ear. And you loop it around, and you tuck it through the hole, and you pull it tight. And sometimes you got to put a double knot in because your shoes are going to come untied. I think it's the reason why I will never be a bus driver. We'd never get to school. I'd have to stop and tie every kid's shoes as they got onto the bus. And if they came undone before they got off, I'd be tying their shoes again. We'd be late for school every single day. And also their shoes would be on the right feet. But I don't mind. I love doing that for kids, and I would do it for grown-ups as well. What would it look like if tomorrow when you woke up, all that you had were the things that you were grateful for today? Being grateful reminds me of a river. A river is full of life. There are fish swimming, water is moving, things are growing along the shore. And if you could stand there on a quiet day and you could keep yourself really still and quiet, you would see deer or raccoons or some other animal coming to refresh themselves in the water, because rivers are giving. They are always moving, they're always flowing, they are always giving. Refreshing anything and everything that comes near. Ingratitude to me is more like a swamp. Swamps are stagnant. Ingratitude grows out of fear, insecurity, and jealousy. And the water never leaves a swamp unless it evaporates. There is no life in the swamp except for the algae, and that's not really life, that's a fungus. Would you rather drink water from a swamp or a river? Swamps never give, they only take. A river mindset is about being grateful and generous on a daily basis. Swamps take a lot of work to change. It needs a channel on both sides, one so that water can come in and one on the other side for it to go out. Or another idea with a swamp is just take a lot of dirt and fill it in. Fill it in until it's full, and then plant a flower garden in it so everybody can enjoy the beauty of what is growing there. Filling in the swamp of your life or my life. We can even fill in the swamps of other people's lives by being an example of gratitude and generosity. Being a giver of gratitude and not a taker. It's a great way to get the waters of gratitude to flow. Finding the source of the river is going to take a long time, but looking for the source of all that is good in your life, I don't think it's going to take far if we will just stop and think that God is the source of everything that we have. Paul wrote in Romans chapter 11, verse 33, "Oh, the depth of the riches of wisdom and knowledge of God, how unsearchable his judgments and his paths beyond tracing out. Who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has seen his counsel? Who has ever given to God that God should repay them? For from him and through him and for him are all things. To him be the glory forever and ever." If gratitude is an action, which it is, then the action is a mindful awareness of the benefits of life. We have the power to make it a more powerful virus than anything else known to man, and it doesn't require a mask. Studies have linked the emotion of gratitude with a variety of positive effects. Grateful people tend to be more emphatic and empathetic and forgiving towards others. I knew of a family at one time that they made a gratitude list, and they took paper and they put it on a roller, and it hung on a hanger in their dining room. And every time they had something that they were grateful for, they would write it down and they would pull the page down a little bit. They write it down, pull it down. And I kind of would love to go back to that house here 30, 40 years later and see how big the list is laid on the ground. I think it's something great to do, is to create a gratitude list, and it's not something you do just once. It's something that ought to be happening on a continuous basis. The spool should never run dry. We should constantly be writing, because people of gratitude don't judge a book by the cover. They're not interested in the mystery of a person's history, but they are more interested in their future. People of gratitude are less judgmental of others. And I think they're also very careful who they spend their time with, because they don't want the swamp water of somebody else dumping into their river of gratitude and generosity. I found that gratitude can be a weapon against Satan's attack. And I am so grateful for what Christ has done and is doing in my life, that it causes me to be grateful for what God has already done and what God is getting ready to do. Gratitude looks at fear and says, God has this, not you, fear. I'll ask you again, and I've asked you before, what are you grateful for? Where have you written that down? Are you willing to share your list with me? I'm grateful that my shoelaces didn't break. I'm grateful that I had a bed to sleep in last night. I am grateful that I got to eat today. I'm grateful that I was given amazing parents who sacrificed in ways that they have not seen or remembered. I'm grateful for the masses of friends that I have. I am grateful that God loves me enough to have chosen me before creation. I'm grateful that you took the time to watch today. I'm grateful that we were going to get to see each other again, if not here, maybe at church, and if not in this life, because we have our hope in Jesus Christ. We'll get to see each other one day with him. Thank you. I'm grateful for you. Bye-bye.